This is 3 News Now, your daily update on everything Northeast Ohio with Stephanie Haney.
Hello everyone, welcome back to 3 News Now on this Wednesday, August 24th, this beautiful day in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for being here for the top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thank you for being here for the stories that matter most to you. These are the stories that you are clicking on, reading, and sharing from our website and from our app. And we'll start today with the thing that everyone is talking about, student loan debt relief, and what President Joe Biden said this afternoon about his plan to provide relief to most Americans that have student loan debt. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of what he said. Some of the context that he provided at the top of his conversation today was interesting. According to him, the cost to attend public college in the United States has tripled over the last 12 years. Pell Grants, if you're familiar with FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, which was what many of us had to fill out when we applied to college to get a financial aid package. If you were awarded a Pell Grant, that was because your family was determined to have earned a small enough amount of money that you were just given free money, grants from the federal government. Well, those Pell Grants used to cover 80% of the cost of a four-year college. That's according to the president. Well, today, they cover about 32%, so just under 1/3 of the cost to attend a four-year college. In that spirit, President Joe Biden had made good on a campaign promise today, or at least promises to make good on it. We're not clear when will this go into effect, but we do know that he has a plan in place for some federal student loan forgiveness. Now, I want to stress here, this is dealing with federal student loans. That's different than private student loans. So these are the loans that people qualified for to be handed out through the federal government. These are not loans that anyone went and got on their own through a private institution. So here are the things that he talked about today. It's a three-part plan, and these are the things that we can expect to come from the Biden administration. First, that payment pause. It was supposed to end at the end of September. People were bracing to begin repaying federal student loans beginning in October. It's been extended. What he says, one more time. So he says this is the final extension for payment pauses on student loans. So that will extend through December 31st, 2022. So that means people with federal student loans will need to begin repaying those in January, but they will have October, November, and December to plan for and prepare for that to happen. Presumably that will also give the administration time to put these other things into effect. Now the second one, this is the big thing. Under the authority that Congress has already granted to the Department of Education, President Joe Biden has said that he will forgive student loan up to a small amount, $10,000 to $20,000 for certain student loan borrowers. So let me start by saying there are 45.4 million Americans, that's what's estimated, that have federal student loans. So that's the piece of the pie that we're looking at for people that are impacted by this, that have federal student loans. Now, Biden says under this plan, 43 million of those people will get some debt relief. Will you be one of them? That's the question that people are asking. Let me tell you how you break that down. First, you need to look at your annual salary. Do you make less than $125,000? That's the first threshold that needs to be passed in order to qualify for President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. If you make more than $125,000, none of this applies to you. But if you make less than $125,000 in a year, this does apply to you. So from there, if you make $125,000 a year, you are eligible for $10,000 of student loan forgiveness. That will just happen. Now, if you are one of the people who during your education, during your undergraduate education, was awarded a Pell Grant because it was determined at that time that your family made a small enough amount of money that you qualified for that free money from the federal government, you'll have $20,000 of your federal student loans forgiven. Now, the president made a point of noting that most of the people who qualify for that amount for student loan forgiveness, most of them make less than $70,000. So whether you fall in that $10,000 bucket or that $20,000 bucket, the president says 90% of the eligible people make under $70,000 a year. So if you're thinking $125,000 is a like a pretty high bar. Most of the people are not making anywhere near to $125,000. Most of them are under $70,000 per year. Now remember a moment ago when I said 45.4 million student loan borrowers exist in the U.S. when it comes to federal student loans. As I said before, 43 million will get some debt relief, and of those 43 million, 60% were Pell Grant recipients. So of the 43 million getting some debt relief under this, most of those people will get the $20,000 debt relief from President Biden's plan. Here's a big number, and this is great news for 20 million people. 20 million out of those 43 million people who qualify for debt relief will have their full remaining student loan debt canceled. That means that they are below that 20,000 threshold or below that 10,000 threshold if they didn't receive Pell Grants. The third thing that President Biden is implementing in his plan is a reinvention or a rethinking of the income-driven repayment plan. So if you're familiar with the income-driven repayment plan, what that is the federal government, the Department of Education, takes a look at your income and it caps your student loan payments at a certain percentage of your discretionary income. So that is not your annual salary. That's your annual salary minus your expenses for housing, food, utilities, car payment, those necessities. So your discretionary income is your money that's left over after you pay for life's necessities. Previously, if you were on the income-driven repayment plan, your student loan payments from the federal government were capped at 10% of that discretionary income. So let's say, for example, you make $1,000 every 2 weeks. And say out of that, $700 goes to your housing, goes to your food, goes to your utilities, your car payment. Well, that leaves $300 left over. So previously, your student loan payments will be capped at 10% of that $300, so $30. Well, now what President Biden is proposing is capping that at 5%. So that would cut that payment from $30 to $15. And after you make that payment, of course, your income will change over time, but after you make that payment, which is a percentage of your discretionary income for 20 years after that, all of your student loan money, all of your principal balance, the interest and everything associated, completely forgiven. Here's another element to that. If your original student loan balance was $12,000 or less, and you're in the income-driven repayment plan, so you're paying that percentage of your discretionary income, if you do that for 10 years, if your original balance was less than $12,000, then it's forgiven after 10 years. Now, according to President Biden, this will save more than $1,000 per year for most borrowers. Now, he did mention that something that he had previously done as well. They've been trying to revamp the public service loan forgiveness program because it is admittedly a very messy program. Lots of people who thought they would be eligible were denied. So they had reopened this opportunity to apply, and that is open through October 31st. So if you're in the public service industry, these are people like police officers, teachers, people who work in emergency services, people who work in the military. If that's you and you think you might be eligible for loan forgiveness, go to pslf.gov before October 31st to see if you qualify. That's something that was previously done. Now again, lots of questions remain about this, but I think the important things to remember are these apply to federal student loans, not private student loans. So if you didn't get your loan through that FAFSA, through the federal government, if instead you went to your local bank and you got your own separate private loan, this doesn't apply to those loans. This applies to federal loans that are with a federal loan provider at this time. So that's the lowdown. That's what we know so far. Again, we continue to wonder when this will take effect. If I had to guess from a legal perspective, since the payment pause has been extended to December 31st of 2022, I would guess the Biden administration wants to get this completely situated and enrolled for everyone before the start of 2023. All right, now let's turn to some local news here because about a year ago, we told you about a baby that was found at a Northeast Ohio bus stop at the RTA, and that baby has been known for the past year as Baby Doe. It was last July that we covered the story. The baby was found at 105th Street and Superior. For those of you who have been wondering, we can tell you what has happened with that baby who we didn't see, but witnesses saw her dropped off by an elderly man on July 19th of 2021. She was wrapped in a blanket at the time at that bus stop. Well, today that baby girl, who is about 18 months old, is in the care of relatives. So we do know that she is being cared for. Now, for legal reasons, Cuyahoga County cannot release any pictures, the true name, which side of the family the baby is living with, but officials do continue to refer to her as Baby Doe and have added that it is likely she will be adopted by that family member soon. So that baby is doing well with family. Now today we got an update from officials on monkeypox in Cuyahoga County. Cuyahoga County Board of Health Commissioner Roderick Harris gave an update about the vaccination clinic that's ongoing in the area. This is what Harris said. We are making sure we are strategically thinking about where we get these vaccines to, where they belong, and also that we have enough distributed on both sides of town and that we're giving vaccines to the city of Cleveland. So Cuyahoga County has begun vaccinating people who are most high risk for monkeypox, and those vaccination efforts will continue on Friday. Now let's turn to a conversation that was happening on social media over the weekend during the Browns preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Some people chose to wear some tasteless shirts, and our Mike Polk Jr. provided his comments, his thoughts on that yesterday. And the gist of it is, they don't represent us, is what he had to say. So you can see his full commentary on WKYC.com. I encourage you to watch it. But the point was, for every person who is doing this performative thing, this sort of speaking out, being callous, being jerk Browns fans, as he called them, and not being sensitive to the Deshaun Watson situation here in Cleveland after he has now been suspended for 11 games for sexual assault from the NFL, which was a settlement reached between Watson and the NFL. For every one of those fans doing something tasteless, like wearing a shirt that is derogatory toward women, or including comments that say things like "Free Watson" in a sign held by a child, he's saying we shouldn't necessarily hold that child accountable for that, because that child is just a child, but the person, presumably the father with that child, is just one person. And for every one person like that, there are thousands of other Browns fans who are wrestling with this situation in their own way and having to contend with this situation, and also being lifelong supporters of their home football team. So check that out. It's on WKYC.com. It's a really powerful message and definitely worth the watch. Now, for Browns fans who are looking for something to smile about, today we can say, yes, we do hold a grudge, and I am happy to celebrate the fact that former Cleveland Browns owner Art Modell will not be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, at least not this year, because he did not make it past this round for the coach and contributor category. You know, his reputation, even though he controlled the team for about 30 years, his reputation was pretty much ruined after he moved the Browns to Baltimore. I know that was a very sad day for me and my family. But again, he was not named on the final nominee list for the coach contributor committee. Instead, former Cardinals and Chargers coach Don Coryell got the nod. So Don Coryell may or may not get inducted, but what we know today is that Art Modell definitely will not. And that is good news for Browns fans. All right, let's talk about what's going on with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell's name is being tossed around as a potential to be on the Cavaliers lineup for the 2022-23 NBA season. The start of the Cavaliers season is less than 2 months away right now, by the way. And if you remember last year, the Cavs were pretty good, and they're expected to be pretty decent this year. So according to Ian Begley of Sportsnet New York, the Cavs have touched base with Utah Jazz regarding Mitchell, and so maybe they'll have another all-star on the team. What we do know is that he's widely considered one of the best young players in basketball. He's 25 years old, he's a 3-time all-star, and he's reportedly available because the Jazz are apparently on the rebuild. Could he end up in Cleveland? That remains to be seen, but it is being talked about. Something else we know about today, there are big changes coming to the Ohio Turnpike, and it's being called the largest construction project in the history of the roadway since it was constructed in 1955. So it's going to involve lane conversions, removing gates at toll plaza interchanges, and installing new electronic tolling equipment. There will also be a renovation of 4 mainline toll plazas that will allow easy pass open road tolling. Now, the executive director of the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission wants to remind people, if you don't have an easy pass, you will still have to stop to get a ticket. So the entire capital cost for this project is estimated at $232 million. and it's expected to save $257 million in operating costs over 30 years. So that's a significant gain. That's about $25 million in surplus over 30 years. So the savings is a result of reducing the number of toll plazas from 31 to 24, adding automatic toll payment machines at all toll plazas, and eliminating toll gates at all entry lanes. Also, a projected increase in Easy Pass usage. So if you want to read more about that project, you can do that at WKYC.com. And if you are a lottery player, if you're in Ohio, if you bought a ticket in Findlay for last night's drawing, you might be a $1 million winner. Nobody hit the $116 million jackpot, but there was a $1 million winner sold in Ohio. Again, it was in Findlay, which is about a 2-hour drive west from Akron. It was sold at Packasack in Findlay. So if that's you and you haven't done it yet, check your ticket. The next drawing for the Mega Millions, that'll be on Friday. That estimated jackpot is $135 million, and you all know that I've been playing the Powerball for the past year unsuccessfully. I still haven't won a single dollar. Now, based on my estimate of the odds, I might win something by the end of September. Of course, that could include a $4 prize, but in any case, I continue to play and I push on to see if it pays to play the Powerball here in Ohio. And that jackpot is $100 million, and that drawing is tonight. All right, that's it for your 3 News Now update today for Wednesday, August 24th. I will see you next time here on 3 News Now.
Thanks for listening to 3 News Now with Stephanie Haney from WKYC Studios. Subscribe now so you never miss an update, and find more on everything you heard here on WKYC.com and in the WKYC app.